Looks like we're back at it with more of the car discussion videos. I guess that's just kind of the nature of things when you don't have a whole lot of time, but you got to spend a lot of time driving. So this video, to preface for YouTube, again, don't hound me. This is educational content that is meant to explain harm reduction techniques and educating consumers or users or people studying the kind of substances described. The substances described in the video are not controlled. They are completely legal to use under certain circumstances. And once again, this is for educational purposes. So with that in mind, and also in mind, this video is completely extemporaneous. It's mostly just me shooting from the hip here. I typically can remember a lot of these things, but if I slip up on something, just make sure to hit me up in the comments. I'll try to clarify. This video for today is on nitrous or whippets, laughing gas, whatever you'd like to call them. They have a lot of different names. The most popular these days is galaxy gas. So galaxy gas, whippets, nitrous are one of those substances that you see a lot online, but have this air of mystery and like ominousness to it, where a lot of people don't fully understand what exactly is going on. And a lot of the users of nitrous tend to be deeply reckless dumbasses. They're just not the brightest of people often. So to give a little bit of context, nitrous is a inhalant that has been used both for medical purposes and for recreational purposes for centuries. There are records of people doing this well over 100 years ago. There's some even 200 years ago. It's been around a while, and despite that, it's not really studied much for its recreational uses. It is studied for its use as a simple, easy onset and come down anesthetic. So if you are gonna go and get like wisdom tooth surgery, for example, which I did, you're gonna be put on nitrous. And so you might be wondering, well, if laughing gas that they give you at the dentist is the same as, you know, the kind of stuff that these like idiots on Instagram are posting where they're like, you know, like downing a whole tube of galaxy gas, if it's the same, why is it regarded as so dangerous? And the simple reason is it is completely safe if you are not a moron and use harm reduction strategies. If you fail to use these harm reduction strategies, nitrous is one of the most dangerous substances you can consume. It can kill you, it can paralyze you, it can give you long-term brain damage if you do it incorrectly. So, how is it done in a medical setting? What ends up happening is they'll typically hook you up to some sort of mask, and why it's not dangerous in that setting is because you're not just getting the nitrous, you're also getting oxygen. When you get both at the same time and they're regulated at a proper level, nitrous is completely safe. It can put you under for hours, it can put you under for a few minutes, and you will gradually and casually wake up. And the worst consequences you'll have from that are a bit disoriented. Maybe you'll say some dumb shit after surgery. That's it. So then why is galaxy gas killing people? Why is it paralyzing people? Simple. Hypoxia. Like, they're just not breathing. It's really that stupid. If you're not familiar with what hypoxia is the state in which your brain begins to break down when it is no longer receiving sufficient oxygen. Ways that this can happen, a very common one is like altitude sickness. Altitude sickness is basically just a lesser degree of hypoxia, where your brain has to acclimate to the fact that there is less oxygen per capita in the air you are breathing. So when you're hitting nitrous from a whippet, you know, like a full container, that's just nitrous. There is no oxygen. So you are getting straight nitrous. Your body will perceive it as though you are breathing. But in reality, you're not breathing. You're not getting any oxygen to your brain. So if you continue to just suck on this without getting any air in between, it's gonna give you brain damage. It's gonna paralyze you. It's gonna mess you up. Another good example of hypoxia, and if you want to get a really good representation of what hypoxia does to you, is watch or listen to videos of air traffic controllers in which a plane loses its pressurization in the sky. Very quickly, within a matter of minutes, you will start to lose your coherency very quickly. Your decision-making skills will be less, but in addition to that, you're not going to be freaking out. You're going to be weirdly calm with the fact that you are actively dying of brain damage. And that can make it very challenging for you to get out of that situation. So a depressurization in a plane is one of the most threatening possible conditions to be put in. It needs to be dealt with immediately. If it's like a commercial airliner, they need to get out of their cruise altitude at 30 to 40,000 feet and down to 10,000 or lower immediately. Should that not succeed, you will start to die. That's why there are masks in the plane. So when you're hitting these Whippets and you just keep doing hit after hit after hit after hit, you're basically just in a plane at 30,000 feet. You're not getting any oxygen. You are killing yourself. So how do you do it responsibly? Just take breaks between hits. Frankly, it's really that simple. Say you're using one of the conventional like Galaxy gas styles, where it's a tube, you have a twist nozzle. The twist nozzle can be quite dangerous because it is plastic, and it can, we can get into what it can do later. But the general principle is when you have it, you're holding the tube, you're gonna stick it either in your mouth or immediately outside and very, very, very slowly and gently turn the nozzle until you hear just a little bit coming out. That's when you will proceed to inhale it. You don't need to do this on full blast. It's not gonna really benefit you on full blast. You don't need to hit it very long. Nitrous, along with a lot of other inhalants, will enter the lungs and will activate basically instantly. So you holding your breath with it in your lungs is just causing hypoxia. So take a quick hit, exhale, and then take maybe 2 or 3 breaths in between. And you just keep doing that. You do that until you get the desired effect. Typically, the more you hit it, the more you'll start to lose sense of hearing. You'll start to get blurring. You know, that's when the high, or whatever you want to call it, is on. You don't want to hit this thing too many times. If you start to feel tingling or sensation in your legs, that isn't necessarily a problem because that's the anesthetic working. But if you're at the point where everything sounds very robotic and crackly, that's the point where you need to stop and chill for a few minutes. The actual duration of nitrous is very limited, typically between 5 and 15 minutes if you're doing it a decent amount. There will be lingering effects a bit after, but it's going to require you to continue to hit it if you want to maintain that high. So if you want to get the most out of your Whippets, you're going to want to do small little hits here or there, nothing crazy, and do breathing in between. If you do this, you're not going to get hypoxia. It's not going to mess you up. It's not going to be an issue. Where it can be an issue is one of the main side effects of Whippets, Galaxy gas, nitrous, whatever you want to call it, is that it has the tendency towards compulsive redosing, where you will feel euphoric in a way in which you feel compulsed to continue to hit it. At a certain point, you need to have the control to be like, hey man, I can't hear anything because it sounds like robots underwater. Let's chill the fuck out for a few minutes, and you need to just stop. So take a few minutes and chill. As far as how to actually do the inhalant itself is where it gets even more challenging, because if you do it poorly, you will cause frostbite and major damage to your mouth or whatever body part it comes in contact with. That's why these nozzles can be very dangerous, because if you twist them too much, especially in your mouth, that shit's blasting out full force and you will cause severe damage to your mouth. There are people who have lifelong permanent damage because of severe frostbite from how cold it is due to being pressurized. A very safe and consistent way that you can do this while still using the nozzle is the balloon technique. You're going to want to get a decent strength latex balloon. You want latex or rubber. You do not want plastic. The plastic won't like expand or contract the way that you want it to. So you get a big enough balloon, you fill the bitch up, take it very slow, because the coldness of the nitrous can pop the balloon and then you're just wasting fucking nitrous. Why would you do that? So you fill it up very slowly and casually, and depending on the situation, you could just pinch the balloon and hold it. You could tie it. You could do, there are these chip clips that you can press onto the end of the balloon where you can seal it where it's tight enough where it's not leaking the nitrous, but you didn't have to actually tie the balloon. And so then that will last for a decent amount of time. It will continue to leak. The balloon will contract like anything else. And because it's cold, it's going to react to the environment very interestingly as well. So typically, if you're going to fill a balloon with nitrous, you're going to want to use it in under an hour. So you fill your balloon with nitrous, you take it, you inhale it. The amount of nitrous in a balloon is often not enough to fuck you up to the point where it would be a problem and you would pass out. You would need a really big ass balloon, or you would need several. Another strategy with the balloons that's very easy to do is you fill it, you seal it, you tie it, and you take a small needle or a pen and you gently prick at the end where the tie is, and you apply a little bit of pressure. So now it's a nozzle that you have control over. But because it's small enough and because it's the latex, should there be an issue where the balloon pops or too much comes out, it's not a sufficient enough amount of nitrous that it's not going to cause any major damage, nor is it going to be cold enough to cause any major frostbite. So that's one of the safest ways to do it. Another way is some brands of these Whippets and whatnot, their nozzles are just better than others. Galaxy Gas sells some of the worst ass nozzles imaginable. They're fucking dangerous. If you're gonna use a Galaxy Gas nozzle, do not blast it under any circumstance. You're gonna want it to where it's just a gentle a very gentle hissing sound. Anything above that and you are risking going to the hospital and having to tell someone that you're a dumbass who hurt themselves with nitrous. You're gonna have to be known for that. So don't be known for that. Just don't let it get to that point. So why would you want to do nitrous? Why the fuck would you do this? What is the purpose? Me personally, I find nitrous on its own to be completely pointless and generally unpleasant. Where it becomes interesting is when you synergize it with other substances. Nitrous is one of the few substances to where it will cross boost basically everything. And if you do it in the right amount, it's not necessarily dangerous. It can be dangerous. I recommend if you're going to combine it with something, check it on the Psychonaut wiki what its interactions are with. Nitrous is a disassociative, so you're going to expect disassociative style feelings. So if you're on other disassociatives, you're going to not be fully there. You know, you're not going to be the most lucid in that context. So what are some interesting substances you can combo with? Number one, alcohol. Alcohol can be tricky because when you inhale the nitrous, it can kind of make your lungs freak out a bit. It's not fully dangerous, but if you are wasted enough, it can induce sensations similar to respiratory depression, and it's generally best to avoid. So if you're gonna use alcohol and nitrous, use very little of each, because the combo cross boost will be perfectly sufficient. Another fun one is cannabis. Nitrous and cannabis are very good together. You can basically do them in any amount without it being of a life-threatening risk, assuming you still adhere to those other principles of safe consumption. Again, YouTube, don't get on my ass. This is educational content. We have people out here doing these Whippets. If they're gonna do them, I would rather have them do them safely and not end up in the hospital. So you take it with cannabis, you get your boost, and it's, depending on the type of strain you have, it's basically just going to make it stronger. It's not the most profound, it's just an enhancer. I guess a way you could describe it is, say you smoked 0.5 gram of, say, indica flower. If you hit the nitrous a couple times, it will, for between that 5 and 15 minutes, make it feel more like you smoked a 1 gram or 2 gram. You know, it'll boost it quite a bit for a decent amount of time. But so now we get into the interesting shit. Synergizing with psychedelics is by far one of the most fascinating experiences to have. Keep in mind, the psychedelics I use are legal. They do not violate the Federal Analog Act. Again, you can check my channel. YouTube, don't get on me. This stuff is not a controlled substance, and this is for education. Stop trying to take down my videos. So say you take one of these legal, non-regulated substances, such as 4-ACO-DMT in the form of one of these gummies. You take some of that. It works best in the come up or in the climb. So if you've taken psychedelics, you know the come up can make you quite anxious, where you'll start freaking out a little bit. If you, at about the 30-minute to an hour-minute point after consuming the psychedelic, begin to use the nitrous, it will boost the visuals tenfold and will calm you if you know what to do. Something about like the disassociative, it'll make you not as paranoid. It can make you less nauseous. Again, I don't quite understand why it does this, but it makes the trip process far, far smoother on the come up. And then once you're at your peak, every time you hit that nitrous, and again, use it with the safe practices, it's gonna increase your visuals dramatically. I'm talking, you could go from having a 3-gram style shroom trip or a 30 milligram 4-ACO DMT shroom trip, and it can make it feel like a 6 to a 9 gram for that brief period of time. It is wild that it can do that. And if you have all three, the trinity going at once, you have shroom-based or tryptamine psychedelics, you have cannabis, and you have nitrous, and you are meeting God. It is a fascinating experience, but it can be very, very dangerous if you are a moron. Because again, if you're on high amounts of shrooms, you're not fully there. You know, you're not thinking right. You might be lucid in the mind, but your control of your body can be reckless. So if you're reckless about using the nitrous itself physically, you know, say you're huffing it out of the fucking the nozzle from a Galaxy gas tube. If you're being reckless while tripping balls and you like hit it too hard, you're just gonna blast out your mouth. Like, it is painful. I made that mistake once. I've never made it again. You will learn from that lesson. And again, if you're gonna combo it with more complicated other substances, just do the balloon technique. It's very easy. Balloons cost a couple dollars. The way that nitrous works, if you do it slow enough, the cold isn't gonna wreck the latex of the balloon, so they're refillable. Just refill that bitch, huff it, you're done. Good, boom, easy. And so yeah, if you're interested in psychedelics, and if you have done Whippets before and can do it responsibly, that combination is truly magical. I don't know of anything else on earth that does that. A couple other substances you can combine with is a few other disassociatives. I've never done ketamine, but to my understanding, comboing the two can make it quite strong. So like if you're trying to K-hole, if you're trying to go to the other side, hitting nitrous while you're if you're in that boundary space just before entering a K-hole and you hit nitrous a few times, it'll basically guarantee it. So if that's your goal, it'll be easy. If you're not trying to K-hole, don't combo the two. You're fucking crazy. Another fun one is Amanita muscaria or mucimol stuff. Also kind of a weird hybrid substance that's like both a depressant, a disassociative. Amanita is a fascinating substance. I'll do another video on that probably after this one. But if you do Amanita and you're familiar enough with it and you know the kind of trip you're going for, you can get some very interesting results when you combo with nitrous. So then the final discussion. Is nitrous safe to use consistently? And the answer is kinda. Right, so one of the main problems that people have if they get addicted to nitrous, and keep in mind, nitrous on itself is not especially chemically addictive, it's far more mentally or socially addictive. Right, so the drug itself is not gonna fuck you up. It's gonna be like the desire for that euphoria specifically that'll make you keep going back. This is no nicotine where it's gonna like stay with you and you're gonna have withdrawals. Some people have talked about withdrawals, but some people have talked about some pretty crazy shit that I don't believe. So what is best safe practice with nitrous, if you don't want to go through a lot of extra bullshit, is you only do it really infrequently. So say you trip on psychedelics and you like to trip, say, every 2 weeks. A lot of times people don't want to trip back to back because you can be wasting product. You have to do a lot more to get the same result if you're doing it under 7 days. So say you do it once a week, or say you do it once every other week, once a month. Do your nitrous that day alone, only that day. The reason why is nitrous, when it is absorbed into the body, can cause severe B12 deficiency. B12 is one of the many different substances that you get typically from like red meats. Some types of vegetables can contain it, legumes, beans. A lot of things have B12, but a lot of them don't have enough B12 to sufficiently supplement what is being lost by using nitrous. So if you only do it once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatnot, you're not going to be losing enough B12 for it to matter. But if you're doing Whippets daily, you're going to kill your brain. If you don't have enough B12, you're going to start getting very profound anemic symptoms. It's going to deprive your brain of necessary substances. It can cause literal long-term brain damage where you will slowly start breaking down from the inside. So if you're addicted to Whippets and you insist on doing it daily, take a shit ton of B12 supplements. And when I say a shit ton, you're going to need a lot because it can drain B12 fast. A lot of stores, they'll sell supplements. It might be like 3,000 milligrams, 5,000 milligrams. You kind of have to know your own body. You can tell when you're getting B12 deficient if you are extremely tired and have no will to do anything. If you get that way after an episode of taking taking Whippets too much, you need that B12 back. So another easy way is some energy drinks just have like 10,000, 15,000 milligrams B12 in it. It's usually used for exercising because having B12 can make you feel energized, hence why lacking it can make you feel lethargic. So if you insist on doing Whippets daily, do that safe practice where you make sure you don't go into hypoxia and make sure you are supplementing your diet with a fuckload of B12. If you do this, the data suggests it does not have long-term damage. Again, I'm not a neurologist, I'm not a pharmacologist, but from what I have read and from what I understand of it, that is the safest and easiest way to do so while enjoying the substance, comboing the substance, and not, killing yourself and your friends. So once again, I hope you appreciated this educational video. Actually, I was going to end it here, but no, we're going to go on another topic. Boom, we're going back into it. Flavored Whippets, do not get them. A lot of these places will be like, oh, this is Galaxy Gas with like cherry or strawberry. There is no evidence that doing Whippets consistently and assuming you take your B12, assuming you don't get hypoxia, that doesn't have evidence of long-term damage. But something about the flavoring agent that is added into Whippets tends to be potentially carcinogenic. It's very understudied, it's very new. But know that if you are using flavored Whippets, you are at risk of cancer. The specific type is unclear. How bad it is, also unclear. But again, if you're gonna do Whippets, just do the generic. Often the flavors suck balls anyway. They're not very strong. All of these different companies, the thing with Nitrous is it is what is referred to as a non-differentiated product, as in like they're basically all the same. The Galaxy Gas is the same as Miami, is the same as, I saw one called like Baking Bad, like a Breaking Bad remix. All of them are the same. It's a non-differentiated product. All that they do differently is add this weird flavoring, and some of them are nice, some of them are bad. All of them seem to be carcinogenic. So again, if you're gonna regularly use Whippets, do not get flavor. If you're gonna do it once every so often and you wanna see what it's like, you can go ahead. I'll just warn you that it's not very strong. It'll be the strongest at the beginning of the tube, and especially the strongest at the very end of the tube. Otherwise, it'll be a very, very subtle flavor that's not gonna really matter. Standard Nitrous already has kind of a sweet, almost like vanilla-y flavor to it anyway. And if you're hitting Nitrous enough, you're losing your sense of taste. So like, who fucking cares? Don't get flavored Whippets, just get the regular shit. And if you're gonna be a routine user, buy in bulk. It does not make sense to buy these little containers. They'll sell you like a little container with like 320 grams for like 30 bucks, 35 bucks. Nah, fuck that. You save up, get your ass a big tank, and do the balloon technique. Don't be an idiot. Don't waste your money. And make sure that if you go into one of these shady smoke shops and you have like the extremely suspicious Indian man behind the counter and he's like being really weird about it, they're gonna try to con you. So compare prices, know prices. Screw it. I'm gonna give price recommendations too. The smallest containers you're gonna typically find are gonna be about 320 grams. These will typically sell between 25 and 35. If they're charging over 35, do not buy it. The next size up is the 600-ish gram. Typically these go for about 50. Next up is the 900 or 1000 gram. These will go between 60 and 80. Anything over 80, you're getting ripped off. Then you'll start getting into the big ass tanks where you got like the 2000 grammers. 2000 grammers typically go for between 100 and 140. Anything over 140, you're being scammed. Haggle it down to 120. And if you're getting the big kahuna, the 3000 grammers, these are pretty much the biggest you're ever gonna find. You'll see smoke shops saying that they want them for $200, $220. Bullshit. Haggle with them. I've gotten them for $140 because they know they're making a profit on it. This shit isn't like expensive. Haggle with them. And again, these people are selling a shady substance and most of them don't know how to sell it safely, how to teach people how to do it safely. A lot of these smoke shops would literally sell your life for 5 cents. So if they're gonna be an asshole and try to overcharge you for nitrous, hit them up with the data. Again, I've seen them cheap. If you need specific recommendations, I can give it to you. And probably don't buy Galaxy Gas. Galaxy Gas is a very shitty company. The one I tend to prefer, I forget its full name, but it's a big blue tank and it's called Miami something. The Miami ones have the best nozzles by far. Keep the nozzles, use them on other things. You can do it slowly, you can do it fast. They're good for filling the balloons. They're good for anything and they're less likely to, you know, destroy your insides. So yeah, I think this is the end of this video. Hopefully this is helpful to somebody. Again, YouTube, this is educational content. These people are gonna use these substances. If they're gonna use them, they should use them safely and not get ripped off by some shady scammer in a smoke shop.